Hello, my name is Joe Healy.
And I'm Lisa Dowling.
Welcome to the 5th edition of Elevate, coming to you live from our studio at our corporate headquarters in Kilkenny, Ireland. So, we're really thankful to have you at home and in your offices dialing in online today. We know how busy you are, so thank you so much for taking the time out of your very busy schedules. Also, thank you very much to our live studio audience, who again have taken the time and effort to be with us today. We're incredibly grateful. We have people here from as far afield as Finland, Sweden, Netherlands, Austria, Germany, and even the USA. So thank you all for your contribution. It's greatly appreciated. Elevate, as you know at this stage, is very much an invite-only group. It's made up of, the members are made up of TBI clients, and it's very much members-led, isn't it, Lisa?
Yeah, so it's a safe house. You can say whatever you want.
Exactly. I love it, safe house. So what we've done is we've listened to you, the members, and in previous years it was a 2-hour session in the morning, but now it's double. You're getting more bang for your buck. It's twice the size. We have an AM and a PM session, because we've been inundated with our members coming to us with ideas for the sessions. So we have an action-packed agenda. The morning session, Lisa, is chock full of really good content.
So we are going to start off the morning with a panel discussion on Vida. So we have a bit of Vida fatigue at the moment, but
we're still living.
We still are trying to keep up to date with the discussions that are going on at the moment. So we have 3 fantastic panelists. So we have Anton Apple from WTS, and he's going to cover the DRR requirements based on e-invoicing. We have Nicola Fitzgerald from Glambia. Nicola, thank you, is going to cover the platform economy deemed supplier rules for platform economy. And then we have a returning speaker, Nicoletta Petrosino from Nestle, who's going to talk to us about the single VAT registration pillar 3 of Vida. So we're going it really is, yeah. So it'll be great conversation there. We have a good 40 minutes, so lots of interaction there, hopefully. And then we're over to Liz Gallagher from Meta. So Liz is also a returning speaker. Thanks, Liz. And was kind of nicknamed the Gossip Girl section last time. Hope you don't mind.
Definitely. It was, we got a lot of 5-star rating for that section.
Yeah. So really is the ear to the ground kind of information, the latest on the discussions that are happening predominantly around digital reporting requirements. So looking forward to hearing from Liz. And then Joe, over to you for an e-invoicing discussion. Again, very topical.
So last year was our first year with a partner contributing in WTS, and Anton is joining us again this year. This year we have another partner, Basware, who is, and we're joined by Gustav, who we're going to dig into e-invoicing. So at TBI, obviously, we're at the forefront of VAT and VAT compliance and mandates. E-invoicing is a very big part of that. We get asked questions about e-invoicing all of the time, so we felt let's correlate all of the questions we get asked by our client base, put them to Gustav today and let him expand on it, so we'll all be much wiser by the end of that session.
Yeah, fantastic, and it has such an impact on the DRR discussion as well, based on e-invoicing and just having a look at what those domestic mandates are all about too. And then we're going to wrap up this morning, so don't forget we have an afternoon session as well, but we're going to wrap up this morning with Aileen from Joseph Ripkoff, who's going to have a very practical session with us on the VAT function of the future. So interactive session with Aileen to wrap up the morning.
Fantastic. Yeah, and that's the morning session only. We'll break for lunch then for a couple of hours, and then we're back in the afternoon, Lisa.
Yeah, so quick run through on this afternoon. So we're going to have a Comply demo with yourself, Joe, and Georgie. We're going to have Stefan Kuhn from Mondelez talking to us about outsourcing and automation of your VAT compliance function.
I tagged Stefan's piece as find out what allows Stefan Kuhn to sleep well at night.
So we're going to have a nice panel discussion again then in the afternoon on VAT digital services with Melissa O'Brien from Shopify and Trish O'Brien, they're not related, from MongoDB. So that will be a really interesting topic just to talk about the VAT obligations in that kind of industry. And then we'll wrap up this afternoon session, Joe, with Lachlan from Viatris.
Absolutely. Lachlan is a new contributor, so we're very grateful to him for bringing his content.
And a new kind of topic as well for Elevate, so transfer pricing topic.
Absolutely. And just a little bit of housekeeping for you folks at home. We have a live chat, so absolutely, it's interactive. Get involved, put in your comments, put in your questions, and we'll do our level best to deal with them throughout the day. And as we said, we're always looking for speakers for the next event. It rolls around very, very quickly. So if you like what you see today, you feel like you have something to contribute, by all means, drop that into the chat as well. Yeah. I know the folks here in the audience are going to be fantastic contributors, because I had the privilege of sharing and joining them for a few Guinnesses last night, and they're all well able to give their opinion. So that's fantastic too. Yeah,
and we've already now gone over already on the intro and done way too much talking. So it really is over to the speakers here to carry us through the day.
Without further ado, let's get into it.
Okay, so I'm joined on the stage today now by three fantastic speakers and panellists to talk about VIDA in a little bit of detail. So Anton Appel, welcome, from WTS, is going to cover DRR requirements based on e-invoicing.
Yes, thanks for having me.
Great. Nicola Fitzgerald from Glambia is going to take on the deemed supplier rules of the platform economy, Pillar 2. Welcome, Nicola. And Nicoletta at the end from Nestle is going to talk to us about Pillar 3, the single VAT registration, right?
Thank you for having me.
Okay, so we said we had three speakers, we have three pillars for VIDA, so I kind of tasked everybody with, look, take a pillar, tell us what the pillar is all about, give us the update that's on the pillar, because that's what really we are here to hear. Just what is the update? What is the latest? What is the conversation that's been had at the moment? So Anton, over to you. Your favourite topic, right? DRR. So if you could just give us the background of the pillar, and then tell us what's happening the latest.
Yes, thanks, Lisa. Yes, I'm talking about e-invoicing, or talking about Pillar 1, we're talking about e-invoicing, and we're talking about the mandatory digital reporting, which should be introduced with Pillar 1 regarding inter-community transactions. So we're talking about inter-community supplies and inter-community supplies of services, which will be affected on that, and it will be required to provide e-invoicings, and it will be required to have a digital reporting with regards to that. And so there are two main challenges with this Pillar 1, I think. So the e-invoicing needs to be submitted in a structured format, a so-called EN 16931. So this is the format in which the e-invoicing should be issued, and the invoice and the digital reporting needs to be issued within certain deadlines. And these are the main challenges with Pillar 1. And so yeah, it's questionable which of the challenge is the bigger challenge. Is it other structured format, or is it like the deadlines? Yes, from my point of view, it's going to be the deadline, because everyone is, every company at the moment is able to produce an invoice, and this invoice needs to be put in a new format. Okay, there's going to be a challenge, but I think it's handleable. With regard to the deadlines, it's going to be, from my point of view, more challenging, because like the deadline. So in the first proposal of the Pillar 1, it said the deadline for providing the e-invoice should be 2 days. Yeah. And the second deadline to provide the digital reporting should be two additional days. So we had 4 days to do the reporting. And I think
the latest, I suppose, because I'm hearing that the latest is about 10 days is what's being suggested. Is that 10 days to issue your invoice, but still a day to report the transactional data, or it's hardly 10 days to report the transactional data? Or?
So what we heard is that it is going to be closer to 10 days, closer to, we don't know, we can't predict the future, of course, yes, but that seems to be, it's going to be closer to 10 days, but what we heard as well, that it's going to be 10 days for issuing the invoice, and the same deadline for issuing the reporting, so it might be the same deadline for both then, but yeah, it's a little bit predicting the future. We don't know at the moment.
Because to me, I think the hardest part is really the issuing of the invoice, and that's where the time will come in. Once you have the invoice issued and it's in electronic format, what is the problem to then send the data nearly instantaneously? Because we do it in other countries.
Yes,
so.
I think that's the point. I think it's the big challenge is to collect the data. So the biggest challenge from my point of view is the process. Just having one simple example with this regard. For example, a company is providing a service in another EU member state and has to issue an electronic invoice for that and has to do digital reporting. So in very simple case, for example, the company has to collect, for example, if it's a repair service, they have to send out some employees to these countries. So they have to collect the travel cost. They have to collect the time spent by the employees of the country of the company spending for the service. And let's say they also subcontractor, and then they have also to collect the invoice of the subcontractor. And all these data need to be collected to issue their own invoice, and to do all this within 2 days or 10 days, we will see what it's going to be. It's going to be a big challenge for a lot of clients, obviously, and especially with regard to an invoice from the subcontractor. The subcontractor will have pretty much the same deadline to issue its invoice. So our company will have the same deadline to issue an invoice like as the subcontractor. So it's probably receiving the invoice and has to issue or needs or collects the information from the invoice for their own invoice and to issue the invoice on the same day. So there are some things in this pillar which are not thought through from my point of view and needs to be amended in a way.
Okay, so it's still a proposal, it's still under discussion. What about the timing now of it? So what's the latest on the timing then, Anton?
Yes, with regard to the timing, so it's going to be delayed, obviously. So we saw that the EU Commission had ambitious plans to introduce VIDA and Pillar 1. So it should be introduced, or it should be started to be introduced in 2024. So this will not happen, obviously, because there is no political agreement on VIDA at all.
What year are we? Oh yeah, we are that year.
Yes. Yeah, we're in 2022, so 24, and so what we hear from Brussels at the moment is that it's probably delayed to be amended, the mandatory e-invoicing and mandatory digital reporting to 2030 or even to 2032. That's within the discussion at the moment.
So, and I think like having that kind of extended deadline, and when we're talking about domestic mandates, which Joe will cover with Gustav from BASWER later as well, by the time we get to that date, won't it just be like we just have to click the VIDA button, because we will have gone through the process of, we'll have set up the e-invoicing, you know, we'll have the structures in place, and then it's just, you know, extend it to your cross-border transactions and click your VIDA button to report it. You know, this is the kind of feeling. It's so long. It is actually so long, and there's so much that has to happen before that. Like Nicoletta, you know, how are your businesses approaching it? Are you just tracking it? Or are you just consumed with domestic mandates at the moment, or what's the feel?
Yeah, so the company at the moment is really focusing on the domestic mandate, because this is the urgency now. So as you said, so we are really focusing on that and not really caring about, you know, the European requirement. So, and probably in 2030, as you said, probably will be just, you know, kind of put together what we already done for the domestic mandate. And also we are trying to have, you know, a centralized project, which is also very difficult to implement because each country want to go with its own solutions, stakeholders, and yeah, to align different, processes and people in the same moment is extremely difficult.
Yeah.
But we are trying to do also that. Yeah.
Yeah.
We'd be the same.
Yeah.
It's like, will we stand up a project team and go for this? But then you're constantly trying to monitor the change. And like Nicoletta said, it's the domestic ones are the priority at the moment, and try to keep abreast of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because
Absolutely.
we have a presence in a large number of European countries.
Yeah. And so other things that we were hearing or that we want kind of clarity on, and maybe Anton, you will be able to speak to this, or maybe Liz will have some information, but just on the actual model that is going to be used, is there going to be pre-clearance? What is it going to look like? Because we know in Italy with their pre-clearance model and the invoices flowing through the STI portal, that has caused problems for other aspects of the business. So not allowing a business to raise its invoice and send it to its customer and receive directly, and having the tax office sitting in the middle has had an impact on certain things that you wouldn't even consider. So just VAT deduction on employee expenses, little thing. It has had a significant impact on that process, which have led kind of businesses to forego their input VAT deduction in Italy on these kind of expenses, which, we're Taxback, and, we were born out of VAT recovery, and so this is kind of like, can't do this, so this new process, this new technology is going to hamper another process that was in place and working fine. But what was my question?
You were questioning, I think, with regard, is there going to be a pre-clearance, a validation of the invoices by the tax authorities? I think this is a very interesting question, because the first proposal did not have any pre-clearance system in it, and what we hear from Brussels at the moment, that there will probably be some kind of pre-clearance, and what we hear is that it was kind of lobbied in by the industry, because the industry had some experience with the Italian model and liked it in a way, because they experienced that in Italy, obviously, they did not have too many requests from the tax authorities, and they connected that with a pre-clearance. I'm not sure if this is really a good development. From my point of view, pre-clearance is like an additional effort to put into the process, and so that's why I do not understand that the industry was lobbying it in.
Yeah.
And they were lobbying it in, from my perspective, to have less requests by the tax authorities, because they're saying if it's pre-cleared by the tax authority, we are expecting them to have less requests. But such pre-clearance will just be on a basic level, and it will just be like e-invoicing or invoicing requirements.
Yeah.
But like all the implementation of invoicing is aiming to something totally different. It's aiming to tackle fraud, to really know if the taxable persons in different EU countries which have transactions together, if they're reporting the same to their tax authorities. And so I think the aim is totally different. So I don't think that the pre-clearance will really lead to less requests by the tax authorities, but is only putting more effort into the process. That's why I don't like the pre-clearance model very much. Yeah. It's my personal opinion.
Yeah, I don't like it either. Okay, we'll
It'd
see.
be more of a, like a roadblocker to something that should be very efficient.
Yeah, absolutely. So just a couple of other points. IBAN, to have an IBAN number or IBAN details on the invoice, I think has been dropped from the latest discussions.
Most probably, yes. So some invoice requirements which should be amended with WIDOM seems to be dropped, like it's IBAN or other payment date. They will probably not be invoice requirements.
Okay.
But it's predicting the future. We will see. We will see. Yes.
These are the suggestions,
Yes.
I suppose.
Yeah.
And the summary invoices are back in.
They are back in. They are
Yes,
probably
okay.
back in, but it's rumors. Maybe some words or explanations on how the process will be now, because I think it's interesting. So at the moment there were this year were already 2 meetings of the ECOFIN on the working level, and there's going to be another meeting tomorrow, I think, and we were expecting to have an ECOFIN meeting on the ministry level at 14th of May, and then most probably, or it's expected that then there should be a political agreement at least, and then hopefully we will see a new draft of VIDA, and then we will have more details, and we will not we don't need to predict anymore, hopefully, and can really speak about it in the details. Yeah.
So we thought we'd have that the 8th of December last year. So we'll wait and see, and we'll have Elevate next year. We'll still be talking about.
I'm an optimist. Yeah.
Okay, thanks a million, Anton. So we'll move on to pillar 2 then. So the deemed supplier rules for the platform economy. Nicola, thanks for taking this topic on, because I know it's not kind of your industry. It's not, so. And this is quite, there's a lot of discussion about this pillar as well. So if you could just give us the background of the pillar initially.
Yeah, sure, no problem, Lisa. I think it's one of the easier pillars towards what Anton had. So it's the platform economy for accommodation and transport services. Effectively, it would mean that the operator of the platform economy would be responsible for collecting the VAT for the accommodation and the transport services and remitting that to the tax authorities. That's simply, that is what it is. The tax authorities would love it because it will reduce fraud. They'll get, it will increase their revenues dramatically, as, I'm sure there is lots of accommodation and transport services that are not being tax compliant at the moment, that they're too small. And it will put maybe accommodation and transport services providers that are smaller on a more level playing field with the bigger operators.
The traditional operators.
I suppose it will reduce inequality for them. So the date, the latest date is the 1st of Jan 2026. So that's moved again.
It's been pushed out again. So it's an interesting one, because I suppose that it is to level the playing field and remove a distortion of competition. It will, the impact on the VAT gap policy or the VAT policy gap in relation to the exemptions that are given by the tax office to kind of smaller businesses has an impact, then kind of shifts the VAT obligations to the platform. So it seems like the platforms are kind of they're turning into just the ultimate VAT collectors, right? Whether they like it or they don't like it. And even when they don't fall under this obligation, they still have to kind of do reporting on the underlying suppliers that they have. So there's a lot of obligations being shifted to the platform. So I suppose the platforms, and they also have DAC 7 and they also have CSOP and they have all of these other reporting requirements. So it's a lot to the platforms, I suppose. So they don't like it, really. We've heard from many businesses on this area that they don't like it, but obviously the tax offices are going to like it, because the tax office then don't have to be chasing these kind of individuals.
Smaller companies.
Yes, and they're recognising then VAT revenue that wasn't there previously. So of course that's going to, reduce your VAT gap. And we see that the VAT exemptions like the registration exemption thresholds are going up. I think this year Ireland has increased theirs, Latvia, Lithuania have increased theirs, and we have the SME directive coming in, which is also going to impact those thresholds. So it's like, the two arms aren't talking to each other.
Absolutely.
Just making it easier for SMEs, I suppose, but shifting the responsibility to the platform economies. So I think what I've heard in this area, though, as well, there will be exemptions for smaller businesses, smaller platforms. So
I've heard that they haven't communicated, I suppose, what the threshold for that will be, but that is the talking or the rumblings that I'm going to have been hearing exemptions for the smaller players in the service, or maybe until they get to a certain threshold.
Yeah. And then also, which I don't like to hear, optional, that the deemed supplier rule might be made optional, so member states can choose whether to apply the deemed supplier rule, which the minute we hear optional, we lose the harmonisation, and, it just creates problems for business and inconsistency and
Inconsistency, yeah.
yeah.
When it
so
is
we
optional.
love optional, right?
It's same with Pillar 1 as well. Like what we see, I think the first draft was pretty good from my point of view, because it was harmonizing really. So we should have one regulation within all member states. But the same with Pillar 1 is a situation that we are facing, the situation that now local regulations will still be in place or will be allowed to be in place. With the first draft of the directive, it was said that all local regulations should be amended onto the European regulation at latest at 2028, and so it's with all the pillars. It seems to be pretty much the same, that we will have less harmonization, and I think this is making the whole draft less strong. I think it's a pity in a way. It's going to be more complicated for all the taxpayers. Yes.
We need kind of more dictatorship.
in a way.
We would operate better in a dictatorship. It would be good, yeah. Okay, thanks, Nicola, for the update then in relation to Pillar 2. So we're going to move on to Pillar 3. Nicoletta, if you could just give us the update there, or give us the background, I suppose, first.
Yeah, probably the third pillar is the most well-received pillar from business and tax authority. I guess it is a compromise, it's well received from everybody. So the idea is to extend the one-stop shop that was introduced for the e-commerce VAT package in 2021 to certain, it was introduced for cross-border e-commerce transaction, but they wanted to extend it to certain B2B transactions, so like a transfer of own goods that are cross-border, also to chain transaction possibly, but also to domestic supply to consumer from the distribution hub in the country. So this would make this very appealing to the business, but also they would like to have kind of improvement for the import one-stop shop. It was introduced just for the low-value imported goods, so the idea was to get it mandatory, but probably this has been dropped, and to
postponed. They're still
postpone it
talking
to
about
the
this,
customs reform.
to the
Exactly.
customs reform. Yeah.
Exactly, true. And also to remove the threshold of the €150. That would be also very welcome.
Yes, absolutely.
Because it is a big complexity for the business. So, and the third part of the pillar is to extend the reverse charge mechanism. And here we have the harmonization problem, because today, the reverse charge is implemented in certain countries with different rules. So you have Italy, for which the reverse charge has to be implemented only if the customer is established into the country. So if they have just a fiscal representative, this cannot be applied, and the other way around for the supplier. So these are one of the limitations that I see with the pillar. But also for the one-stop shop, still it is not in the pipeline to have the deduction right for the VAT that is accrued through the OSS return. Yeah. This is also the other big limitation. But still, it is very, very welcome.
Yes, absolutely. And so we had e-commerce Europe wrote a letter to the president to kind of encourage, that we go
to the Belgian presidency.
Move ahead, that move ahead with the date. We need this.
At least with this pillar.
Yes.
Let's introduce it, even if it is not to 2025 as estimated, at least in 2026. Yes, and this is the new deadline that it was introduced.
And so do you think that they might separate the pillar, take Pillar 3 and just...
I still think this pillar is also extremely challenging. It's extremely demanding to the tax authority also. So I don't think they will be able to do that, but will be very, very welcome. Still, it is an improvement. It is not perfect. But if you think about small and medium enterprises, they can reduce the compliance costs about 10K per year, because if you think about asking and maintaining a VAT registration in each single country for a small entity, it's a lot. Also, if you have, the movement of own goods declared through the OSS, this will facilitate importation into bulk. So you don't have to deal, so neither business, neither tax authority, and neither consumer has to deal with, individual parcel shipment. if you think about different thresholds.
Capital goods in or out for the transfer of own goods, that was the thing, that capital goods were out. So it's transfer of own goods was part of it, but not capital goods. Are they in or out? Not sure.
Yeah,
still
no,
up
me
for
neither,
discussion,
to be honest.
I'd say. Yeah, still up for discussion. But as well, Nicoletta, you mentioned the input VAT side of things. Again, something that I'm always interested in, the input VAT side of things. So
it still will be through the refund procedure. So you cannot deduct your VAT through the OSS scheme, and this is a pity. So for example, we also are going for the OSS this year, and we are registered in the country where we asked the OSS, and we are always in a credit position in that country. Would be so nice, to offset just the VAT that you have to pay for the consumers to this credit, but it is indeed not possible.
So it creates a cash flow issue, I suppose, and it would be really nice. And then, there's just a timing issue of the refund directives, and
exactly.
It's not super efficient.
Same problem for the reverse charge.
Yes.
Still, no, you can, you fix the sales part, but still the input part, if you have only intra-community acquisition, it works. But if you have domestic purchase, you are accruing VAT into the country where you are making the purchase. So still it's not perfect.
Yeah, it's not perfect, yeah.
And it is really, really challenging. I guess it's really demanding.
Anton, you're dying to say something.
Yes. I think the third pillar is. I think it's really. It's a good one. It should help really to reduce registrations. But I would have a suggestion for the EU Commission to make it even better, because I think.
Are you listening, EU Commission?
Hopefully. Yeah. Why don't amend or extend the OSS system also on intercommunity acquisitions, because this will really lead to less registration obligations in whole Europe. So I think it's a good approach in general, but it could be much better. It could be much better if like OSS system would be extended on intercommunity acquisitions, because this is in general this is a reason for the most registrations within the European Union. So it's good, but it could be better from my point of view.
Include input VAT deduction. So
exactly. And also the other. Sorry, Nicola, you wanted to say something.
Just the input VAT deduction would be good if that was included.
Yeah.
No, the only thing that I want to add, Lisa, is that the biggest advantage that I see with the USS is that you don't have to deal with different, because also e-invoicing will affect consumers, so business to consumer, and also the real-time reporting. So through the OSS, you will have only one standard audit file to be prepared in that country, and also you have to deal with just one country for the invoicing regulation if they are going to implement. So if you go in Netherlands, for example, it is not still in the pipeline, so it would work very well.
And also payment. So the payment would just be to your tax office, your designated tax office, and then it's distributed. So it makes even the payment side of things easier. So it's definitely like a great pillar, fantastic simplification if you can use it. So yes, the acquisition side of things, they missed that one, Anton. And the input VAT deduction is always going to be an issue for businesses from a cash flow point of view, and 813 directive, not fantastically efficient mechanisms to recover VAT. So so that's it. But on the whole, Pillar 3 is the best, right? Pillar 3 is the best.
Seems to be.
I suppose most welcome from business, really. So any last points then?
I think the pillar 1, which I'm staying for, is very nice as well. It was nice in the beginning. I think they made at the moment they're making it worse. I think the first draft. So of course a lot of companies didn't like to have it's mandatory to issue e-invoices and digital reporting, but in a way it was forcing companies to digitalize processes, which is a good thing in general as well. So what I don't like at the amendments we are foreseeing for the next draft at the moment is really that the idea of harmonization is contradicted in a way, and that's really a sad development at the moment. So I hope some of the people here which are representing the industries are lobbying against that a little bit, because we saw lobbying with regards to VITA was quite successful, but from my point of view into the wrong direction.
Yeah, I think, yeah, we are seeing, there is a general trend with harmonisation. We even saw with the reduced VAT rate directive, you know, harmonisation meant that they would allow each member state to be able to apply the same derogation of another member state. But that is not harmonisation. That is just creating more options, so which isn't good. So any harmonisation that gives us more options is probably not such a good thing, right? For a business to be able to operate in multiple jurisdictions. That's the message that we want to send out there, Anton.
Yes, having the same rules in all EU member states for VAT will be really much easier, much better.
Yeah.
Piece of cake.
A piece of cake. Yeah. Any final words, Nicola, on your deemed supplier rules for platform economy?
No, like that. I think it's one of the easier pillars potentially. There will be a huge amount of, I suppose, responsibility on the platform economies, but overall the tax offices are going to push forward with this as it's going to reduce fraud and increase their revenues.
Absolutely. Mind that VAT gap for them, you know.
Absolutely.
And, Nicoletta, final words from you on your third pillar?
Well, I guess we said enough. It will be really interesting to see if this will be implemented. So it can only be an improvement, as we just said. But still, what I see very difficult is that if they want to make this really works, they have to include many transactions that are also B2B. And even if only one of these will not be included into this, then you go back to deal with different multiple VAT registration in the country. So I see it a bit challenging, but still, even if they are not able to include all the transactions that are needed, like chain transaction, for example, this will still be a great help for the business, in particular for the small business.
Yeah, absolutely. And then we'll track what's happening with the import one-stop shop, because that will be a significant simplification for business if it does actually come in 2028, like they're saying.
In particular, if they remove the threshold.
Without the threshold, the 150 threshold. So that would be really good. I think we're kind of done here with VIDA for the moment. And in our next topic that Liz is going to cover from Meta, Liz is going to talk a little bit more about digital reporting requirements, and maybe Liz will have some more insights into that and the discussions that are having, and just some of the uncertainty that we have as businesses trying to operate in this space. So I suppose the main feedback on VIDA from this panel is that we're still at proposal stage. There's still a lot of discussions. There's still a lot of uncertainty. It's not so great for businesses, particularly with e-invoicing. Businesses are focusing more on domestic mandates now, getting on with it, trying to kind of comply with those domestic mandates, and hoping that would all just align with whatever VIDA lands at. And we are saying that we like dictatorship, and that we would be happy to just be told one rate, one invoice, this is the way you do it.
Maybe not dictatorship, but like having involved like the VAT professionals, making the right thoughts about that. And I think in general, it's a lot of good ideas. I think they could just be done a little bit better. So it's small amendments. We really need to have really good VIDA proposal, but at the moment the development is going a little bit into the wrong direction from my point of view. Yeah.
So stop trying to harmonise with options. I suppose that's probably the key message.
Yes, and with regard to the deadlines, for example, we need to differentiate with the deadlines on the supplier and the recipient of the supply and stuff like that. It's really small amendments, and then it will be much better, I think.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll listen out for the meeting on the 14th of May then to hopefully get some final kind of updates, and then hopefully Elevate next year will be completely different. We'll know where we're going. A much more structured approach. But thanks so much everybody for the contribution today to the VIDA panel. It was fantastic. I don't know, are we allowed to applaud? Well done. So we're going to hand over now to Liz Gallagher from Meta, and she's going to take us through a little bit more on the D/R discussion. So thanks a million.
Thanks a lot.
Welcome back, everybody. And I'm joined on stage by Liz Gallagher from Meta. Welcome, Liz.
Hi, how are you?
This was without doubt one of the hottest sessions of last year's agenda. We have very high expectations of you again this year. So we're about to get some really practical, I suppose, insights from an EU and non-EU perspective into digital real-time reporting. So Liz, take it away.
I was going to stand beside Joe, but I felt I would tower over him, and that could affect his ego, but I'm not sure that's actually possible.
I was so grateful you were sitting down.
It's so nice to be back, and it's lovely to see everybody in the room, and I'm conscious there's a lot of people dialed in as well. I kind of wondered, was I back? Because actually nothing has really changed, which for some of us in business is a bit traumatic, to say the least, because I should be ramping up for Poland right now, and instead of that, I am watching a consultation process happen for what appears to be maybe the fourth or fifth time. What I'm going to try and do as best I can is to just go through what I'm seeing from my world. So I obviously work for Meta, we're a large multinational, but interestingly, we have a tiny team globally. We do not have this big fleet of people, hundreds. I have 7 on my team here in Europe, and we do work as best we can. So I'm super privileged that I get to sit at the OECD Working Party 9, which definitely helps me. I also try to connect, and I can see some people in the room who are kind of looking around, smiling at me. I connect with as many people as I can, because as a network, we do help each other. What I've also noticed, which is super helpful, particularly in the last 12 to 24 months, is governments do want to talk to us. They do want to interact with us. They definitely want to hear our opinion, because they're starting to realise that by doing so, it just helps them to implement a regime that hopefully will work better. And I know some of the colleagues here, like Trish and others, will talk about the whole digital area, and that's somewhere we're seeing huge change, particularly in countries like Africa, constantly coming to business, wanting to work with us directly through OECD, through other avenues, so that they can do the right regime, works better, ensures collects detection. Now, last year I used the word uncertainty, and surprise, surprise, I think we are still in a very uncertain environment when it comes to digital reporting. I still will use the word tsunami. My biggest fear is that the tsunami is becoming this kind of bulk. So I'm going to end up with like Belgium, Poland, potentially Germany, all of them happening at the same time, where before it looked like there was a little bit of a stagger between one country and the other. Another risk I see coming is Europe is looking 2028 originally. Now we're moving to 30, maybe 32. If Europe doesn't move fast enough, the other domestic regimes will have to go. They're not going to wait. I think some of them, I can definitely see this with the Irish, and I think they were very much willing to tell us this. They were hoping Europe would get ahead of them so they could kind of leverage off the technology that Europe was going to use. But Ireland can't wait now. It can't wait until Europe goes if Europe is going to be 3032. It's too far off. They have to maintain their digital economy, and as an Irish person, I'm going to be loyal to that, because that makes sense to me. So I can see what these governments are trying to do, but what I see with Europe is a little bit of a stagnation. And I have to be honest, with the Belgian presidency, I think that's going to be key. If we don't see change and agreement in the Eurofin meetings, which are happening tomorrow, and again there's one later in the half, and we don't get that movement, I am worried about where VIDA and the proposals there are going to go for us. Some of the positives I see, and some of this has already been referenced, but just for the sake of me having the ability to say something, I have to cover off on certain topics. The exclusion of the IBAN, again, just proves that they are listening. They are willing to listen to what we're saying, what some advisors are saying. So there is that attitude, which I like to see, that they're flexible right now. They're definitely listening. So we've gone from a 2-day to a potential 10-day, but what we also are hearing is there's a really strong awareness now at the Commission level of intercompany structures. And for me, that was huge, because I have this substantial cost plus environment, and our invoices are not issued like day 10. You have to wait for the month-end close. You have to wait to then reverse engineer everything. There is definitely a strong awareness of that now at the Commission level. That has to be a positive, and I will take it as that, because I am always 3/4 full glass personality. So on that, I am seeing some change, which I'm excited about. But then if I look at the more domestic side of it, because that's now taking priority as VIDA kind of goes back a little bit, sits back for me, I have to focus on, oh, here's Poland. Oh, no, Poland is not coming. Now what we're seeing is, so even last night, I got another update to say there's been now 7 meetings as part of this extensive reconsultation following obviously there was a change in government. And what we're hearing is, which again, I'm kind of happy about, this talk of like the QR code. It is bad enough that we have to issue an e-invoice, but now if the system goes down, they want us to put a QR code on. The reality of what that looks like for companies like ours, again, this assumption, and we're going to be unique to some of you because I am Facebook, Meta, Instagram. I supposedly have this whole suite of engineers that are available to me to do whatever I want. That is not my world. Those engineers are on the monetization side of the business. They are there to make sure that your experience on Facebook and Instagram is really good. And I get left with some amazing but much smaller teams of people to work with to try and implement all of this stuff. So a QR code is not exactly an efficient use of their time, in my opinion. It's stuff that we have to push for, so we are hearing that. We're also hearing that they'll finish the review by the end of July, which to say 6 months, that we're looking at maybe January of 25, or are we really looking at July of 25? It is impossible for me to roadmap that right now. So I've told my teams, and we've actually had quite a big conversation about this at our level, which is, okay guys, am I just going to keep monitoring this stuff up and down, day in, day out, send you an email? It is true that most of the Meta engineers are now connected to my LinkedIn account because that's an easier way for me to update them than to try and email them or put it in some sort of a chat group. So they literally just monitor my LinkedIn and pops up. Even last night I put up something about Spain. It's just an easy way for us to keep up with all of this stuff without investing substantial amount of time to do it. What we've kind of come to the conclusion on, with the exception of probably Spain, is we're going to wait until they enact. We can't keep doing this back and forth over what are they saying next week, what's happening next month. Trying to keep up with that is actually really, really difficult for us. So we're potentially looking at, okay, we're going to wait for enactment, see what then is the best position for us, hoping that they will stick to what we're calling best practice. So this is where the OECD comes in. And you're hearing this, France are showing us this, Poland are showing us this. You've got to give us 2 years from enactment to really have any chance of doing this well, and probably an additional year to make sure that this is all working as it should be. That is enough time for us to get it on a roadmap, make sure we have the resources, implement it as we are required to do and need to do. So that's kind of where we're getting to within Meta, to try and come to some sort of agreement on me not having to update these poor people every day of the week on something that's happening in my world. Because they don't just work for tax, they potentially work for finance too. And there's lots of other projects that we have to continue to work on. So you're looking at Ireland. I'm seeing real positivity here. What some of us have already attended a meeting, so we had like a get together where the Irish Revenue came in. We invited as many companies as we could find. We brought them into a room. The Irish came in, they talked to us. They definitely want business in the room. If you were someone, so the consultation ended at the end of January, but for us, we actually wrote to the team in the Irish Revenue and said, January, busiest month of the year. We are slammed. We don't have time really to look at this consultation paper. Can we come back to you later? And they said, absolutely no problem. Come back whenever you're ready. Please submit your comments. There's an email address on the bottom of the actual consultation paper. They really want to hear from business. So if you want a voice in the room, you have an option to do it. Please take up the option, because what I find is I'm big multinational, and yes, when I sit at OECD, I have to think about small and medium, but I'm not small and medium. You have experience that maybe you need to bring to the room that I can't do for you. So please take the opportunity and do feel that you can reach out. On France, there seems to be a stability, but again, we had this constant up and down last year. Looked like it was in, then it was deferred. Now we're looking like it's going to be September 26 for large, and then September 27 for medium small. It looks like a reasonably good regime, but what we've done again is taken a look at the high level and said, okay, is there anything in here like a QR code? Like the bananas mental schema that we have presently seeing in some countries. I don't want to discriminate all the time, otherwise I may go on holiday. I'm going to a wedding in Poland. I'd like to get into the country and back out of it, so I won't constantly refer to the Polish all the time. The schemas are getting complicated, and the more complicated they become, we see this over and over again. You end up having to defer it again and again and again. This is, it was mentioned earlier, about VAT fraud. If it is about fraud, don't ask for the logistics data straight away. maybe over time, it's a bit like a human being. We are not born and learn to walk and run. We have to take steps to get there. I just hope that some of these tax authorities can see this. They're watching what the Polish are doing. They've learned from the French. The Irish do seem to be taking a lot of consideration. They've talked to the Spanish about SAI and other things. Take your time, because if you make it too complicated, you end up not being able to implement, and I'm actually quite worried about the data that you're going to receive as well. So that's something I'm very passionate about, and I'll try as best I can to continue to voice that in any way that I can. France looks manageable. Belgium, they've enacted, it's Jan 26, but we do know it has to go to the Commission. Now, at this point, I feel, is it up to the Commission to start pushing back a little bit? And this kind of leads on to Spain. So Spain has just gone to the Commission, just early in February, in the first week of February, with their updated plan for e-invoicing. Now, they have put in there that the timeline for large business is potentially 1 year. For any large business, that seems completely unrealistic. Now, can the Commission at this point, with what they've learned about FIDA, with what they're seeing in Poland, in France, in Belgium, not turn around to the Spanish and say, okay, we accept that the regime that you're doing looks okay. We know that you've done SAI already, but you've got to consider the businesses and the business impact this has. And 1 year is just, we think, is not going to work. We don't know if that conversation can be had, but it's definitely something that the minute I saw the Spanish one, I immediately went, we're still at 12 months. Now, they were due to issue the regulation in January. It didn't happen. They've now gone back to the Commission. We understand that will be issued by May. Then are you looking at, like, goes back to Council for a while, it gets voted on, if it gets voted quickly, a year to get all of that done and ramp it up. Now, someone did mention, and I actually don't know the answer to this question, but this is the good part. Someone mentioned to me last night, oh, Liz, I think there's consideration in Spain that if you're on SAI, you may not actually have to do e-invoicing. That would be great, but I haven't heard that before. But if they're willing to discuss that type of thing, I can see benefit to that. So that kind of makes sense for me. Okay, if I move on to data reporting in general, it was mentioned at on the last presentation, it's this kind of feeling of we're getting asked for data everywhere. So as I look at Meta, and this is other people are in the same world as me, we are presently seeing DAC 7. We have to share certain data with tax authority. We may also get caught up in CSOP, which is another form of financial data reporting. Then we have e-invoicing. We're looking at potentially withholding tax regime in Italy. You may have seen some press coverage recently. So there's a withholding tax regime for short-term accommodation. We have heard a country contact us, not in Europe, who now has awareness of the Italian regime, and they're suggesting, oh, is this something we should implement? Some form of withholding tax, so that you as a platform will withhold from a seller. Our business is providing content, sharing with the world, giving the world a platform to communicate, but also clearly our revenue is advertising. We are not the tax authority, but the way this is going, I feel like we will become an equivalent of the tax authority. The data that we're sharing, the expectation that they have on us to have all this data, to obtain all this data, to share all this data, to maintain its security, its integrity. We are literally under pressure with the amount of requests for data that we're getting. And I don't think this is going away. I think this is just growing exponentially. And the reason I say this is because the French have now decided they have, it's like a social security tax, so it's income tax. They've now a proposal which has been adopted, which basically will force platforms who are in the scope of DAC 7. Now, the legislation presently reads, I think it's like section 241 of the French legislation, but it will be amended to reference DAC 7. So if you're in the scope of DAC 7, you will now potentially have to withhold income tax as well from any French seller. Now you've got DAC 7, income tax, e-invoicing, all happening in or around the same cycle with the one country, and if that just replicates, we're going to have teams of engineers. Now, maybe if I want to stay in tax for a while longer, I don't intend to move, I'm a bit of a weirdo, I'm quite passionate about it, that's a job for life. But it's an awful lot of commitment, it's a huge amount of work, and it's how do we, as businesses, whether it's through OECD, through the EU Commission, how do we explain to these countries, it's not just you that's doing this, it's all of the countries doing it, all at the same time, all trying to force this on us. us trying, and we will always try to be compliant. We must be, we try to ensure that we are, but it is becoming difficult. If you look at DAC 7, there's been delays everywhere. Irish Revenue gave an extra 2 weeks. The Spanish have given 2 months from a date that they will announce. And then I also have to do CSOP reporting, which starts in April. If the DAC 7 is not right, how are we going to go with CSOP? And it's like the Commission themselves are putting themselves under a lot of pressure. I'm going to revert back to 2 other areas, so Pillar 2 and Pillar 3. With regard to Pillar 2, the risk that I hear, it's not my sector, but the risk that you're hearing is it's not a level playing field. So certain platform operators collect all the money. They ensure that they only give you what you're owed. Other platform operators do not collect all the money. So to now be told that they have to collect the VAT, so they're only getting a commission. If they now have to pay the VAT to the tax authority, but for some reason that money is not given to them, that is going to affect their margin. It is going to affect their ability to trade. That's the risk we're seeing within Pillar 2. If we look at Pillar 3 and we talk about capital goods, the risk of capital goods, and the good thing is, once in a while, you conveniently happen to be in a room with someone like Ludwig de Winter. Ludwig is part of the EU Commission. He's actually someone who's really open to talk to people. We did have a conversation about capital goods. I clearly was not the first person to do it because he knew a lot. And what the Commission are trying to understand, they do see a risk. I do understand that. They do see a risk with capital goods. But what they're trying to understand is there's no definition of capital goods. Is that something they need to insert? Probably not. Can they put in like capital goods, but this will not work for exempt entities? So if you're an exempt entity, then clearly you cannot claim deduction. You shouldn't be moving into any kind of one-stop shop regime. But we have an entity that could benefit from the one-stop shop extension, but because of the definition of capital goods, we actually are not getting benefit from that exemption at the moment. So there is conversation going on around the definition of capital goods, and it does seem quite positive. So again, I will remain as positive as I can on that topic and hope that over time we will see more improvement, more certainty. The tsunami that flattens a little would be good, because otherwise I do feel like our engineering team in 2026 are just going to be trying to do one country after another, and that could be quite difficult. And I have to be hopeful that the EU can see that if it doesn't get alignment very soon, the traction of VIDA may start to wane, because other countries are becoming focused on their national regime. They must implement it, they have to move forwards, and they're not going to wait for VIDA. And VIDA may get deprioritised. And then it's whether they split the pillars, how will they move forwards. So for me, ECOFIN and what's going to happen over the next 6 months, I do think is key for us as businesses. Other comments I would make are pre-validation is actually something, and it's not actually coming from the service side of business, it's coming from the goods side. So what I understand, and I'm not a goods expert, is if you don't have some element of pre-validation, then if the goods have shipped and there's an invoice with them and suddenly you realise that the invoice is wrong, that can have implications. If I look at it from a super selfish perspective, when the invoice is loaded into the e-invoicing system at the beginning of a journey, as will be the case what we would see in maybe Italy presently, I'm actually not responsible for that upload. It's my AOR team. It's the international revenue side of the house. That's good for me, because if something goes wrong inside that invoice, like the number is incorrect, the VAT number, whatever rejection occurs, it actually comes back to that team. They must resolve it, invoice is reloaded, and off it goes. My concern is if there's no pre-validation, and it's super selfish, 100%, is if there's no pre-validation and a tax authority comes back to me, that's a tax authority query, and then I have to deal with it. I don't have the manpower right now to deal with those types of queries constantly coming back to me. One of the fears I had was when I looked at the Poland update last night, there still seems to be a lack of clarity on what the system is going to tell us. If an invoice fails for some reason, it seems to be like they're just going to tell us it failed. I'm like, okay, that's not helpful at all. We need, so it's like, do you know when you're filling out a form and the thing keeps going, it's not correct. You need it, but you like the one where it goes to the box and tells you, sorry, you need to put in a country prefix or whatever is wrong. The Polish haven't quite got there yet, and I think that could be a huge administrative burden for companies. Where are we as a company? What are we focusing on? One of the things we're definitely looking at is who would we use for globally invoicing? I do have engineers, one of them, I would love to name him because he's the most passionate person I've ever met on the invoicing in my life. He can build me a schema in a matter of minutes. He is very good at what he does, but the problem is not building the schema. It is not pulling the data into the schema. It is maintaining the system. So if there's a change made by the Italians and then the Polish and then the Spanish, the maintenance is the problem because the engineer, because there's a small number of them, has to move on to the next big project. He doesn't get to sit there and maintain a system for one country. So for us, we are strongly considering using an e-invoicing partner, and I'm aware of a number of other companies that are in a similar position to us. Do we want a global solution? Potentially we do. Do we think it can be the case? Latin America, maybe not. But this is something that we are definitely spending time on. I've heard a lot of other companies talk about this, that they are also at this kind of juncture now of, do we need to look at someone? We all might have used a local provider in Italy. We might be using local providers in LATAM because there's sometimes a necessity. It's like, okay, where are we going to go now? Are we going to go global? Are those players ready for us? Are we going to take someone that's kind of up and coming and work with them? Or do we go with someone that's like kind of been there for a while? We are definitely starting that journey. It's something that we're considering, and I am aware of other companies that are doing something similar. But it's definitely the maintenance side that's causing the concern, and not necessarily building to load into Polish portal. I'm going to finish there, because I think that's quite a lot, as is always the case for me.
That was wonderful. You did not let us down.
Absolutely fantastic. If you're not,
I'm a bit like,
I think one of the key takeaways here is if you're not currently following Liz, you better at the break, get your phones out and start following her, because all of that great insights are freely available on LinkedIn. So thank you so much for that. Really appreciate it. So without further ado, we're going to move to the couch for a conversation with Basware. But before that, while we break, hear from our hear about our attempt to digitize VAT compliance through our Comply platform. So here's a little reel to give you a flavour of what we're doing here at TBI.
Struggling to manage your global VAT compliance? What if technology could remove your VAT compliance risk and give you full visibility and control? The EU Commission has introduced VAT in the Digital Age, VIDA, a set of regulations to update the current VAT system to prepare and modify for the upcoming digital age. Comply was designed with VIDA in mind. Comply simplifies and automates the preparation of VAT returns, offers clear governance over VAT data and transparent audit trails. Comply is flexible to the needs of globally trading businesses. Restore confidence in your VAT compliance processes by allowing Comply to reduce compliance time and costs for your business, improve data accuracy, mitigate compliance risks, improve controls and governance, increase process efficiency.
Comply. VAT compliance made simple. Welcome back. So I'm joined on the couch by Gustav from Basware. Gustav, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, everybody. Gustav joining from Basware. Usually in the land of Sonos, but happy to be visiting here in Ireland. I love talking about e-invoicing. I love talking about compliance. We heard now, from a business point of view, all the challenges, and I'm hoping to talk more on the remedies there.
Fantastic, fantastic. So, Gustav, I suppose when you and I were planning this session, I was able to share with you the amount of queries and questions that we get from our customers on a daily basis, week in and week out. So what we've done for today's session is we've essentially correlated all of those queries and questions, and I'm going to put them to Gustav today. Obviously, he lives and breathes this every day, so this is going to be incredibly insightful, and we all should be a heck of a lot wiser at the end of the session. So, e-invoicing, Gustav, why should businesses care?
Why should businesses care? Well, I'd like to start by defining, when we talk about e-invoicing now today, what do we mean by e-invoicing? So we have paper invoices, that's clear to everybody. Then we have PDF invoices as well, going over an email or potentially a server, whatever. Those are not e-invoices. A PDF invoice is not an e-invoice. An e-invoice is a structured document that goes from the supplier servers through various service, whatnot, directly into the buyer service. That's an e-invoice. And we can also be talking about EDI invoices. That's when you have a purpose-built connection between the buyer and supplier. That's not what I'm covering today. So an EDI invoice, that would be, or let's start with an e-invoice. That would be, you have a mobile phone operator, you type in, you dial a number, and then it gets routed through various antennas, whatnot, until it reaches the receiver. That's an e-invoice. An EDI, point-to-point, would be Gorbachev in the Soviet Union, having a hotline to Reagan and just lifting the phone, and there's always the same there. So e-invoicing today is about this network model, and that's what we'll be talking about today. So then why do businesses need to care? Well, first of all, we have all the benefits of an e-invoice. So I mentioned PDF invoices earlier. PDFs, they are, compared to paper, they are faster, they are cheaper, and you get better quality data. Well, e-invoice is the same, but another step further, right? So compared to PDF, they are faster, they're cheaper, and you get better quality data. So those are the benefits of e-invoicing. And I'm sure the people in this room will agree with me here that you want quality data because you work with tax, you need to have all the data in there. And that's the thing with e-invoices, you get all the data. With a PDF, you always have to decide what data do I need to make sure that I get into my system and so on. With an e-invoice, everything is there for you, everything.
Excellent. And I suppose just on that point and how it affects the people here in this room who are global multinationals, how it affects the people who are online and watching us here today. From a tax perspective and the mandates, that's really important too, isn't it?
Yeah, so that's the fourth driver here, I would say, or the last driver in terms of why businesses need to care, and that is compliance. Liz was talking about this, Anton was talking about this. Country after country are implementing e-invoice as a mandated requirement to transfer invoices. So you do have to care about it. You do have to adapt your systems. You do have to send and receive e-invoices in the future.
Absolutely. So there's no escaping the fact our customers will require a solution, and that's why we field so many calls on a weekly basis. We are obviously dealing with our customers in relation to their VAT compliance, their filing, their reporting, and as that moves to real time, and as we look at the mandates, it's unbelievably topical. And one of the big questions we get asked is, what do businesses need to do to prepare to be ready for this legislation as it's mandated?
I mean, it's a big process. The good news is that it doesn't really need to change. You're still sending and receiving the same kind of data. It's still sending and receiving invoices. But there are things that are special when you talk about e-invoices. So one thing I usually like to say is to make sure that all your stakeholders who are in this project, the e-invoicing project, understand what's happening. That you are not talking about PDFs. And here I'm looking at you guys in America, because when I say e-invoices and I talk to people in North America, they assume I talk about PDF invoices. So no, you're talking about e-invoicing. So make sure everybody understands this and understands the benefit as well. You'll be getting all this data, you'll be working with all this data, and so on. And speaking of data, that's then the next part where you need to be prepared to map the data, both the data going out and the data coming back in. So with these invoice mandates, you will have requirements on what data you need to put how on the invoice and in what field and how should it be validated, what are the rules there. And the same thing with the data coming in. Where do you need to store it, how do you need to archive it, and so on. So that would be the second part. And then the third part about an e-invoicing project, and this is also going before you even start a project, that's to think about how you're going to onboard your business partners, your buyers and your suppliers, right? And we have Liz here from Meta, and I think Facebook is a really good example there. So Facebook is what I would call a closed network, meaning that if I go on Facebook, that's great for me, to get updates from friends and family and all that. But if I want to interact with you on Facebook, I first have to register on Facebook, then I have to find you on Facebook, and we have to get friends, and then we can start, interacting. Mm-hmm. But if you're on LinkedIn, I cannot use Facebook to contact you. So Facebook is a closed network, and that's great for its purposes. On the other hand, if you just want to reach everybody in the world, you don't go out and give your Facebook profile, right? You will be much better off going out giving your email address. And that's what we would call an open network. And so you want to make it easy for your buyers and your suppliers here. Here, this is my invoice address. Send the invoice to me. You don't have to do nothing. No portal registrations, no integrations, nothing. Just send it to this email address. To this invoice address.
Fantastic.
That's about make it easy.
Fantastic. And I suppose, that's really succinct and really good description and explanation. Practically then, who do you see involved in implementation projects as you get into that phase of a project on the client side?
Well, first of all, we would have the product managers, of course, and so on. The next person I would involve is some kind of a process specialist, because you're going to have the different flows, both going in and out, and you need to review them with the invoicing. Will this flow still be applicable? How should we change? What data should go where, and so on. And then you're going to have the people who will be working, the functional people, so the people from the AAP and AR departments and so on. And then you're going to need the integration people who will build the integration, and this should be kept to a minimum, really, because integration should be made easy for you. You should not need a new integration for each country, so on. You should work with global integrations. And then lastly, you need the ERP people. Where do we get the data? Where do we put the data? And so on. And as a provider, what I want to make sure is that what we are helping our customers with is not just, the tech that here's a platform, use it, but rather that we can help lead and guide the customers, this is what you need to do to prepare, and so on.
Fantastic. And that's really relevant for us as well here at TBI, because we have the data, we deal in the data. We see ourselves as being an implementation partner almost for Basware, our partner, and our customers, to be able to support our customers to be e-invoicing ready. So that essentially when we bring in a partner like yourselves, it's a turnkey solution. So we've already worked with the customer, we already understand their data, we understand exactly what needs to be done from your perspective. So that's exciting as well. It should make your jobs a lot easier and make life much, much easier for our clients.
Mm. Well, it's about making it easier, and we talk about the mandates now. Something I like to say as well is, the mandates are difficult. Liz brought up, we're going to have one mandate, we're going to have one certain process going on in Poland, another one in Spain, another one in France, and so on, so they differ a lot, and this is difficult for the businesses. You have to adapt locally to this one, to this one, and to this one, but look at it as an opportunity at the same time. So, with these mandates, you're going to get e-invoicing automatically without having to onboard all your suppliers or buying, they will be mandated as well. So you're going to get the benefits of e-invoicing automatically, even though, you do have to have the local mandates. And also you can see it as an opportunity to review your processes. Do I have to do everything that we're currently doing in Romania? Do I have to have this step in Poland and so on? Try to consolidate it and
That's really, really interesting, because we say the exact same thing to our customers when it comes to comply. And when you look at the workflow, we very much designed that to be configurable, because when it was a manual process, you did it this way. Now that you're automating it, you don't necessarily have to stick rigidly to that process. You can think outside the box and redesign it for yourself. So you're saying it's the very same thing with e-invoicing.
Absolutely. I see a lot of, the documents we get from our customers, they have our current state and the future state, and too often the future state involves too many steps that I would like to remove. That now when you have e-invoicing, you don't need to do this data enrichment part, or you don't need to do this data verification part and so on. So you can remove a lot of those parts.
Excellent, fantastic. So that leads us nicely to my next question, which is around common misconceptions. What common misconceptions do you see in the marketplace around e-invoicing when you're having conversations with your customers and prospects?
Well, one would be what we just mentioned with the processes, that you have to keep the same processes. Do review them and review your processes. Do I need all these steps? And I have big multinational companies coming to me with really subpar processes. And that might be, they have a process where they envision that we're going to get an e-invoice and we want you at Basfer to pick up the e-invoice, and then we want you to make a PDF, and so we can work with a PDF. And then I'll go, no, that's not the way it should work. You're getting a digital data. You should be working with the digital data. We don't want anybody keying in anything from a PDF or doing OCR on a PDF. You get digital data. So the process, an ideal process, should be that the invoice comes in, it goes through PO matching and coding, all that automatically. It should be completely touchless from that you receive it until it goes for payment in an ideal world. And that's what we work with our clients to increase that figure, those invoices that are completely touchless, because that's what e-invoicing brings,
So massive efficiency and cost savings as well.
Absolutely. And relating to that as well, another misconception I would say would be that implementing e-invoicing is a big project that needs to take many years. That's not the case either.
Okay.
So I would say, in the simplest form, it's about just registering and getting an invoice address and put out your, have your integration with your systems, and then you can start giving it out. And then you're going to have, a small adoption of invoicing. The bigger project is more about onboarding your suppliers, onboarding your buyers, make sure, how you communicate and so on. And I see 3 ways of how companies are rolling out invoicing. Some prefer to do it together with an ERP change. So, for example, upgrading to SAP HANA. And they say, okay, when this country goes live with HANA, then we'll start with the invoicing there as well. That's one way of doing it.
Okay.
The other way is that they say, well, when Poland goes live, then we're going to start with invoicing in Poland. When Romania goes live, then we're going to start
So they
there.
follow the mandates.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the third one, which I like the most, is when they say, we just want to start as soon as possible because we want to reap the benefits, without having to wait. And so that's one of those misconceptions, that you do not need to have e-invoice project going hand in hand with an ERP rollout or mandates. You can do it separate. It's pretty simple, really.
Very good. Okay, and just on that topic, and when you talk about rollouts, and I'm thinking back to something that Liz said in relation to Meta and their idea of going to market to get an e-invoicing provider and looking at a global solution. What do you see in that regard? Liz talked about maybe excluding Latin America. Do you see clients looking to solve a European problem, an EMEA-wide problem, or a global problem? What do you see most?
So this would actually be something where I would put it rather as an advice, because I see projects led by the local units where say, hey, in Romania, we need to be compliant in a couple of months. And, they have alerted upwards. Or it's the opposite. It's led from central and say, we need to. So do make sure that you involve your local people and you're on the same page. Okay. Because I do see internal politics as well, where the central head office has one idea on how this should be done, and the local one said, but you don't understand how we do it here in our country. We need to send it by this person to approve it or what have you, and so on. Mm-hmm. So try to work with them together and have a central process to work with.
Very good advice. We always see that change management is phenomenal. People get very protective of their roles. They don't like too much of a transition or a change, and then they just put up barriers at every opportunity. That's really good advice.
And other advice here is and that's part of a misconception as well, to think that compliance is automatic. Meaning that once I start sending invoices in Poland through the Polish portal, I'm going to be compliant. That's not all you have to do. You still have to think about what data do I archive where, how do I archive it, how am I going to work with my cross-border invoicing, how am I going to work with self-billing, how am I going to work with our intra-company invoicing, those kind of things. So there's a lot more to it than just implementing, well, now we have the possibility to send and receive invoices through the government portal. No, it's not enough. You have to review everything you do.
Understood. So essentially, it's a re-engineering almost, but you get the opportunity, as you said earlier, to make it more efficient, to do it better, do it smarter, do it quicker, and overall, there's an ROI story here as well, isn't there?
Absolutely, it is, and so that's what I was saying earlier with the opportunity part of this. You really do have an opportunity here to look at how do you work with invoices, both outbound and inbound. Absolutely, you do.
Fantastic. And I suppose, again, thinking about our audience, and we're dealing with VAT professionals who live and breathe the world of indirect tax every day of the week and face, as Liz highlighted there, face numerous challenges on a daily basis, very tight on time. I suppose this is just another topic on their to-do list, you know, in relation to e-invoicing. So how is e-invoicing specifically impacting our global customers, our tax professionals on a day-to-day basis? What should they be cognizant of in relation to e-invoicing?
In my line of work, I used to talk mostly to AP and AR people. They would be the ones who are driving these projects. But that has changed during the last, say, 2 or 3 years, and I see more and more projects driven through or by the tax office at companies, because you are the ones who are getting impacted by this so much. So, and I think that comes back to the data, that you really need to work with good data, both inbound and outbound. I think it comes back to that, as well as the whole compliance part, which is close to heart for you.
Yes.
And then coming back to earlier what you were saying as well about the ROI and the value, and I think that's something that is part for the whole company to be there. So with e-invoicing, you're going to have shorter DSO, you're going to have shorter DPOs, and so you can increase your cash flow, you can work with your suppliers to have, dynamic discounting and so on. So that's a very hands-on, tangible benefit you will get with this. Then the ROI, you're going to get the compliance. There are many countries where if you do not follow the compliance, you're going to face hefty fines. So you're going to de-risk it there. And then we have the cost as well. E-invoicing will be cheaper than your current processes, especially when you look at the whole end-to-end, where you can skip OCR, where you can skip manual verification and enrichment and all that, and you can just have the data come straight into your system. So you're going to save a lot of money on that. And then another value, though less tangible, is around data visibility that you get with e-invoicing.
Very good. So you get to enhance your data lake with some richer data. I guess when it comes to how that data would interact with a platform like ours, Comply, you get to carry out your validations with this richer data in, and then I suppose looking back to the initial panel session today with in relation to VIDA and your requirements around 10 days for real-time reporting, I guess that plays a strong part in the motivation to move to e-invoicing as well, right?
Yeah, and I'm actually surprised about VIDA, because the pillar that we work with at BAS is the first pillar. It's about digital reporting, it's about e-invoice and transfer and so on. And I'm surprised when I talk to our customers how surprised they are by VIDA. Many of them haven't even heard about it previously. Okay. And I really need to, shall we say, educate my customers
They
around
need to
it.
Talk to us more. All we do is talk about VIDA, living la vida loca.
All right, yeah. So in the AP and the AR department, it's not as a big thing there as well. And I think it's a bit different as well, because for us, VIDA is more about a change, an indirect change happening. The digital reporting will come and so on, but it's also about enabling countries to implement their own domestic mandates and so on to a great extent than we have today. So it is something that I think will be on everybody's lips within the AP and AR industry within a couple of years as well. More than
Very
now.
good, absolutely. And we see the rise of that every day in the work we do with our customers. So I suppose, when you think about what is the value then that as a business you're bringing to your customers vis-a-vis tax office relationships with the authorities, is there some value there for clients?
Yeah, so we work, there are 3 parties to this. There's the providers, there are the companies themselves, and there are the governments. And we all have our own talks on how to work with things, how to make things work. Us as a provider, what we want is what we call interoperability. We want to be able to interact with as many as possible. And that's coming back to the email analogy earlier. And that's where we have initiatives such as PayPal and so on, that is really all about making sure that you as a business can interact with whomever you want to without having to think about the onboarding and so on. Otherwise,
just on that, Gustav, while you mentioned PayPal, can you just, for anybody at home who may not have heard it, can you just give us a quick high-level summary?
Very happy to. I love PayPal. I really do. And PayPal is 3 things. It is a structure. So what does the purchase to pay process look like? So that means what are the flows? Well, we have catalogs, we have a purchase order, we have a purchase order change, we have goods receipts, we have invoice, we have credit notes. So what are everything that is included in the purchase to pay process between 2 companies? That's the first part of what PayPal is. Okay. The second part is that it's a cooperation between us providers, invoicing providers. So just like Internet connects various email providers, PayPal connects various invoicing providers, so that it shouldn't matter if you're using Bassware and your buyer is using some other, you should be able to interact anyway. So that's the second part. And the third part is it's a technical definition of the files themselves, like what do they contain. So it's an electronic format as well for invoices and orders and what have you. So it's about standardization, and it's about connecting everybody, and it's growing, and we see governments using PayPal to implement their e-invoicing. Belgium will be doing that. For example, they are basing it on PayPal. Malaysia is doing it as well, and so on. So many countries do this.
Fantastic. Thanks for sharing there. I think we're all a lot smarter after that. And I suppose if you think to our membership here of Elevate, and you look at the fact that we're dealing with global multinationals, what is the value to our membership? What advice would you give our members who are listening to us here today?
Please get away from the local processes. I said it many times now, but that would be my main ask. Look at it holistically, all of your systems. Do we really need to have this local ERP interacting with invoices in the future, or can we just scrap that and so on? So take the opportunity that these mandates bring to do something globally rather than acting locally. And use, I'm going to be biased saying this, but do use a global provider. We're not the only ones, but do use a global provider where you can have basically as few integrations as possible. It shouldn't matter if you're sending the invoice to Italy or Poland. You should be able to use the same integration, just modify the data that you're providing. And Liz was talking about maintaining these structures. That's something that the provider should be doing for you. You should have the one integration, and then your provider should be able to take care of it for you. So. That would be
and then I suppose with that, and that makes perfect sense that you maintain the platform, the portal, and everything works seamlessly and is matched with legislation. And I don't think I gave you an opportunity to answer the original question I asked just a moment ago, but the tax office relationships, the relationship with the authorities, there's value to be added there as well by Bassware, is there?
Well, yeah, the authorities, they want to reduce the VAT gap and so on. And us service providers, we're almost always involved in talking to the authorities around, how will they design the invoice mandates. So there are always talks around this. And the bad news is that each country says, no, we want to do it our way. What works in Poland will not work in the next country and so on. So that's the bad news. But we do try to work for standardizations. That's what we like.
Very good. Yeah, we see that in the world of VAT all of the time. There's never some harmonization is a word that is used. It was used on the panel earlier, but it's the lack of harmonization is what we deal with. So I guess that's very pertinent in your world as well. Absolutely. So Gustav, thank you very much. Is there any other area you'd like to cover before we wrap up here today?
So my final one would be see it as an opportunity. You're going to get e-invoicing. You want e-invoicing. Make sure you use a provider that makes it easy for you to interact with your buyers and your suppliers.
Excellent. Thank you very much for that, Gustav. That was super insightful. I know that I'm a heck of a lot smarter after that session anyway, and I hope you all are as well. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
So next on our agenda, we're going to have hear from our Chief Technology Officer, David Keating, who's going to talk about artificial intelligence and its impact on the world of tax that we live every day of the week. Over to you, Dave.
Hello everybody, my name is David Keating and I'm lucky enough to be the CTO of Taxback International, responsibility for product and all things development. AI, great question, what is AI? So AI is a part of computer science and then beneath that topic heading you have a number of subtopics which you'll all be very familiar with. For example, you have natural language processing, for example Google Translate, you have robotics, Tesla, you have computer vision, image processing, character recognition, and then you have machine learning, which again would be more similar to your ChatGPT, where you have large language models and you can question and get answers to your questions. And there's a number of other ones as well under that main heading. Some of those ones that we use within Taxback International and that are more critical to us, for example, to our reclaim business, would be the computer vision, for example, whereby we're taking in images of receipts where we do VAT reclaim for our clients. And obviously one of the key components of VAT reclaim is we need evidence in those scenarios of those receipts. And we need to make sure those receipts are valid for reclaim. And to do that, we need to be able to read those images, and we use computer vision OCR software to pull the data off of those images to a transaction level where we then run rules against those and validate that they're fit for reclaiming the VAT and the various revenue offices across the globe. So Tesla would have had their auto drive feature turned on at all times, recording how users drive their car, creating a repository of data on how people interact with the car, how they slow down, how quickly they brake. And all of this information feeds into their data model. So when they then turn on, when they hit a critical mass of data and they can turn on that feature, it's learning from those behaviors. We're very lucky with Comply and with the data we have available to us to train our models that it's very clean data. So it's data from VAT experts, from our own internal VAT experts, 20 odd years of experience. So our data is extremely clean, and we're very lucky for Comply with our R&D and the proof of concepts we're currently doing to leverage our own data. The problems we're seeing from our clients are ones that we will address. So our core offering to our clients is VAT knowledge. So we will happily take on board all the challenges that our clients will meet for the future of VAT and the ever-evolving digitalization of VAT. So we will leverage AI/ML to address all of those issues for our clients. That's our core offering. We'll continue to invest time and resources in leveraging AI/ML to forward the process and the speed and the accuracy of all of our clients' VAT compliance needs. We have great insights from our clients and great relationships with both our clients and technology partners, for example, AWS, which will allow us to really be ahead of the curve and solve clients' problems. AI/ML is going to provide fantastic opportunities for both our clients and potentially revenue offices across the world as well. VAT rates obviously are constantly changing, regulatory updates from our revenue offices. Again, we're looking to see if we can use AI/ML to be far more intelligent in our approach to making sure that our Comply platform is up to date. VAT rates and regulatory changes are automatically updated. These are all opportunities that we're looking at for both ourselves, for our clients, for solving our clients' problems, and I'm sure revenue offices will also be looking to leverage some of these as well in the future. So I'm delighted to announce that over the coming months, we will be announcing a series of breakfast briefings across the UK and Europe, where we will be presenting and having guest speakers, experts in the areas of AI/ML, the opportunities that it presents for both TBI and our customers. And we look forward to hosting those. Stay tuned for information on those updates. They'll be circulated in due course once we have official dates, times and locations of those. I think it'll be extremely informative and it'll give you all insights into the future of both Comply plus AI/ML, and what some of our industry experts feel is the future.
So welcome back. It's going to be our last session of the morning, just remembering that we have an afternoon session as well. And thanks to Dave, our CTO, for giving us those fabulous insights. Now I'm joined on stage by Eileen from Joseph Ripkoff. Eileen, welcome to Elevate.
Thank you.
And Eileen is going to cover for us VAT function of the future. And Eileen, you're going to give a little nod to women in tax as well, because
Yes.
it's
International Women's Day tomorrow.
Yeah, and Mother's Day on Sunday for anybody who has forgotten. So, Eileen, over to you, and thanks a million.
Thank you for having me today. Good morning, everyone. My name is Aline Berberi. I'm the International Tax Manager in Joseph Ripkoff. It's a beautiful jewel from Montreal. We do fashion garments for women. And I'm here to talk today about the best practices in the industry, setting up your tax team, boosting up your tax team with insights in how it's becoming the future function in VAT. So, in the agenda today, we're going to be talking about setting up the team, boosting it up. When I say boosting it up, is not only how to help your team getting elevated, but also what is the team, what does it need from technology perspective, how do we make it function better within the new environments that we're going through, and how it's being transformed. When I started 10 years ago in one of my functions, and when I started maybe 20 years ago, because I'm not very young, so. The function in VAT was not what we see today. And a little wink about women and where we are evolving. So you're going to see that you have green cards and red cards. Red cards are not for football today. It's because I'm going to be asking a question, and green is yes, red is no. So just to start, are we having here tax practitioners in-house? Green, yes, no. In-house. Okay. What I'm trying to say by in-house, do you work in an environment, in a closed environment, not in a service environment? Yes, no, like my role. In commercial, thank you. And Liz, I think from Meta. This is what I'm trying to say, because I wanted you to know that from our perspective, the way we see things is not exactly the way when we are working with tax technology and with tax practitioners, advisory, it's not the same insight that we have. So, how do we start a tax team? You need to identify your tax department. Identification of a tax department is really, really key. You need to have to define a tax vision. So this starts usually when I started my career, and all the insights I'm giving you here are based on my practice, my colleagues' practices, and also some readings I've done before. Vision starts by setting your goals. Where do I want to be in 3-4 years as a tax department? What is the name of my tax department? Am I known to be a tax department that is only for compliance? Am I here to support the business? Am I here to become a big team, small team? Where am I heading? And this is something that we set usually from the moment we set a tax department. Why am I saying this for you today? Because in my career and in my practice, many times I was only the tax department. I was the only person working on advisory. And when I started to do the vision of the tax department, I told my for example, bosses back then, I don't want to be the only person. I want to have people on board. So let's work on this vision and make it higher and bigger. Understands perspective and expectations. When the moment we take a lead in a tax team, you need to know your stakeholders. You need to know what they want from you. What is it they expected from you? And what is the vision that you have with them? Where are we heading? What are their perspectives? What are their needs? Because our role internally is to answer them and is to actually give them a service from our own practice and from our own knowledge. So you need to have them on board with you and make them also come to you. Assess effectiveness. I joined Joseph Ripkoff a year ago. 2 days ago was a year ago. My team is a little bit spread. But I had to know who is my team, how effective they are, where are their competencies, what do they do, how can I make them feel better, and how can we grow all together. It's one of the first key elements when we are taking a lead in a tax department and we're setting it up. Prioritize opportunities. So from the moment we start to put those three elements together, I start to see opportunities. Oh, I have a problem probably in AP. How can I make it my priority? Is this priority or is this AR priority? Do I want to prioritize cash flow in VAT function, or do I want to prioritize compliance in VAT function? Develop initiatives and mobilize. When I say initiatives, is come with solutions. Always have solutions. Talk to your people from different departments, finance, shared services, IT, mobilize them, bring them to you and tell them, I need you for this project. I've seen this opportunity, we're having this problem. Let me talk to advisor, external advisor, tax technology provider, and I need you on it. So you need to mobilize them towards your needs. Confirm the department's commitment. What does this mean? For me, commitment means that I have a vision. I'm setting up a team. I want to give a message to the business. VAT in the old life was usually taken as a cost and a project stopper. Today, my commitment in my department, I am never a project stopper. I will never stop you from doing any transaction. I will just make sure that if you want to do it, we're going to be compliant and we're going to do it in the best way, in the best functionality possible. If we have to raise any risk, then I will raise it and I will materialize it. Just want to say, to the business, I'm not here to stop you from doing your own business. And that's very important, because many times in the past, where I used to work in a company in Montreal, when people said, oh, let's speak to Aline, oh, no, she's going to say no, I don't want to say no just to say no. It's because we really need to be compliant and we really need to set our priorities. Nowadays, no, I'm a solution maker. That's my job. What are the attributes that we look for in a tax team? You need your team to be technically strong, but business-oriented. Being technically strong, that means that they know the law, they're wanting to practice the law, but they want to make sure that the business is not stopped by saying, no, the directive Article 143 does not allow me to do that. How can I make it happen? This is what you need. You need a team that does not stop you also from growing. Strong knowledge of the company's business products and system. Key element. I came to Joseph Ripkoff, I started, and before that I was working in-house. I worked in-house for a long time. My success was always people who knew their business and the products and the systems we have. Because when we are in a VAT function today, I am not only doing tax policy, I'm not only doing tax audit, I am also looking at my system. How am I doing my invoicing? We were just talking about e-invoicing today. If I don't know my system, if my team does not know what's going on in my system, we're not going to be able to do e-invoicing. We cannot be compliant. So that's a key element for us. Collaborative and teamwork oriented. We work in silos, okay? Business always work in silos. That's how it is. You have shared services, accounts payable want to make sure that they have enough money coming in the bank account, that people are paying, and we have our VAT refunds. Accounts receivable wants to make sure they send the invoice to get the money. IT wants to make sure the projects are going. But we're all here to work together. So my target in my team is to make sure that my team is speaking to the other team members of every business unit, and they work together all the time. And also, they're not working in silos. If one is doing VAT refund or VAT return, she's not only working on her own, but yet she's also talking to advisory and asking questions. And they all work together, they share the knowledge. Willing to learn and curious. Why? Because in my practice, I've seen many people doing their daily job. They're here from 9 to 5, they go home. oh, yeah, but Jessica told me to do that. Or, yeah, I've seen this and someone called me and they told me this is how we do it. Why don't you just research it yourself? Why aren't you curious to learn? Aren't you curious to know? We provide softwares for skills, for knowledge skills. Use them. That's what I say to my team today. I was able to get them a few softwares of knowledge research, and I push them to use it. I ask Christiana, my teammate, I tell her, can you please do this research? Not because I can't, because I want her to go, type the words, read, and get the grasp of the knowledge and grow within the knowledge. The young people of today, they want easy solutions. They want it fast, they want to get to the results, and they want to move on. And I'm old school, and I'm sorry to say that, but I think this is how we grow as well. Adapt to change. A lot of people, a lot of team members are not able to change. They're, oh, but we used to do this like this. Does it mean that we were doing it wrong? No, but the law changed. The technology changed. The approach changed. Why don't we adapt to it? Let's move on. You cannot only do things 5 years and just never change it. It's very important to be able to have someone in your team that is adapting to change. Good communication skills and negotiation, that's a key one. You need to always have at least one person who is calm, who knows how to talk and how to address the tax authorities. Because in-house, what we do, we also manage audits. And we need to have a good communication skill. If you're talking with the Germans, you need someone who speaks German. If you're talking with the French, you need someone to speak properly with the French. You need to understand also the mindset. Communication is not only the language, it's also the chemistry between the team and between stakeholders. Capable and enthusiastic users of technology, yes, because we make a lot of changes. And when the change arrives, they don't want to use technology. They want to sometimes adapt to other measures like they were doing before. Technology is fast. Nowadays, we're fast. If they're not users, they're still using the same method like before. The report I'm generating maybe is not really up to date, and they don't know that. They need to be able to be enthusiastic and capable of doing it. What is the attributes looked in a head tax? People like me, like Liz, rigorous, but not blinded by detail. I'll give you an example here, a very quick example. We see the out-large business in our function. And in silos, we have people working in VAT returns in some countries and subsidiaries. One of my colleagues in Bulgaria, which is a very, very difficult tax authority jurisdiction, she wanted me to do it in a certain way. I cannot be blinded by your own detail. I need to make sure that I am following our business, but I have a wider, large jurisdictions to look at. So I cannot just follow your method. I need to be sure like I'm doing it right for everybody else. Strong leadership skills. Leadership here means not taking the lead on things only by being a coach. You need to teach your team how to function. You need to show them how they are with their soft skills. This is, for me, leadership. Communicator with tax and non-tax. With tax people, we are all here tax people. So if I mention any article of the directive of the European Union, you will understand it. And we will be able probably to debate 2 hours about it. But when you have a person who is a data clerk from accounts receivable who is making mistakes every time she enters a mention on an invoice, we have to be able to communicate it and to explain it to her. Commercial brings visibility to team, proactive and innovative. Commercial, I need to sell my presence in the company. I need to tell, I'm here. Don't call people outside before you talk to me. Don't speak to tax auditors before you talk to me. Don't take tax decisions before you talk to me. This is, I'm here, my team is good, we're doing a good job, so please talk to us. Brings visibility to the team. One of my colleagues, we had a meeting with the CEO. I really wanted to put light on her. She's just a junior girl in our department. And I told Mr. Emmanuel, oh, by the way, I present you to her. And she felt so nice because I brought visibility from where she's doing back up to the CEO. Team player to develop and achieve company's tax strategy. It's important to always have a tax strategy on every project we're working on. And we really need to go forward to it and to manage to be working all together. You need to develop all the team players with you, and you need to develop a method of doing it. Ability to influence peers, teams, and colleagues of all levels, seniority. I don't know if I can convince people all the time. I don't know if I can make them follow me all the time. I do my best. And this comes with credibility, with knowledge, and with communication. You need to show your peers and high management that you're here, you're doing them a favor and you're helping them. We're all in the same boat. We're all doing everything together. So you need to convince them. I don't know if I really influence them all the time, but what I know, that the girls who are working with me and the young people who are working at our company, they really come always to me for questions. So at least I have this attribute. The roles that we cover in-house: tax policy development and position, tax audit management, governance and risk management, planning and compliance, tax accounting and other indirect taxes, and global mobility. Why am I putting them all here? Because when you deal with your clients who are in-house tax people, you need to be aware of all what they do inside. You need to know when in their approach, this is what they have on their daily task every single day. We look at all this every single day. Tax accounting, I have a GL account. Does it go into this subsidiary or do I have to put it on that subsidiary? How am I gonna segregate my accountancy? Other indirect taxes, plastic taxes, environment taxes, this all comes into in our function. And not all the time we shed light on it. When you come to your clients, it's also good to know that they have other probably issues. Maybe in your tax technology or in your tax advisory, it will give us a solution. Boosting the tax team. Boosting the tax team, a question for you. Do you believe in internal training? Awesome, perfect, thank you. Boosting tax team is by empowering and engaging the team members regardless of their roles. So it could be a person who is doing the VAT return, and it could be the person who is managing the team with me, or it could be someone who's responsible for tax policy. We need to listen to the needs of the team, especially the new generation. They come to me, yeah, but you know, we have this tax platform, we can do this. No, this is too long. We need to listen to them, because after all, when I go and I leave my legacy, they're gonna take care of it. So I need to know, and I need to put in my mind that this person has also new insights. That does not mean that what I've done before or what I'm listening from my advisors outside is the key. They have also a word to say, and we need to always implicate them with it. Share important information. When we have information in the company and we get internal information from the company, it's important to tell them. It's not a secret. Listen, I had a meeting with corporate accounting today. They saw a problem. Maybe I will need you. Just know we're working on it. It gives them just this slightest presence they have in the team. Implement them in high strategic project. I always do that. No matter what the project is, I will always bring someone from the low, kind of data entry persons, and I will tell them, hey, Lisa, for example, yes, you. Lisa, we have this problem. Do you think you can help me with it? Can you find a solution? Maybe she's not going to be able to do it, but it elevates them in the team. Invest in professional trainings and learning. This is what we all said here. I think we all agree on that. That's a key thing. But the problem we face in-house is that we have sometimes no time, especially now the things are going too fast. Technology is going too fast. Adapting to the changes are too fast. We have no time in it. We really need to create the time. And also sometimes higher management does not believe in it. So we always need to push them a little bit. Emphasize the importance of self-development and training adaptability in the face of evolving tax landscape. So self-development and tax landscapes. I need to tell my team, you need to develop yourself. You need to read more. You need to know more. Call your peers. There is I don't know, like 5 to 7, we call it 5 à 7, with the beer or something. Just go, it's okay. It's gonna give you some presence. It's self-development. Push them to be able to do that, but give them the space. You'll see, like in one of my slides I put, to also give them some space. Ensure that we have adaptability to tax technology. That's a key thing. I think we've already spoke about it. Explore the role of effective communication in VAT and tax. That's also very good. You need to make sure communication rules. What are the words I use? What are the words I do not use? And always read what is going out from your tax department, just to make sure that the communication is being done properly. That's what I just did, present to high management and allow them to be visible. I think I've told you that. Giving them space for some self-development, and I've told you, like, give them to self-develop, but also give them the space to do it at their own pace. When, after 1 year, when you do your KPI and the person does not meet then probably the objectives, then we have a talk and we try to work around it, because it's key importance. In a tax position, you need to always self-develop yourself, and you always need to be knowing what's going on with novelties. Sharing ownership and team building, I always do that. We have once every then we have a team learning sessions. I train them internally. I train not only the tax department, I train IAP, I train AR, sales, master data. You have no idea how sometimes master data needs to be trained about the way they enter the data and how this is becoming as a consequence on my invoices. And that's where we need people like you when we are doing the business internally. VAT function transformation. Do you think VAT had transformed in the last 10 years? Yes. Thank you. The transformation happened. Do you think it's only technology? We all agree. Perfect. The red is. So how to modernize the VAT function considering the transformation that we're having today? You need to know your processes. You need to identify your processes. You need to need the technology that will help you to get to your point. Lisa, you were right. I'm at 3 minutes, so I'll probably take a few minutes more. You were totally right about that. Thank you. So you need to know the processes, you need to know what technology you can use and how to make it happen to get to your point. And that's a key measure when you do it in a team environment. Data management. We spoke about data management. We spoke about, and this is what you guys do on day-to-day business. I don't do that on day-to-day. Data management is very important. Back in the days, my VAT function was, I have an auditor who is coming on premises. I meet with him. I give him the, I don't want to say crappiest, but really the crappiest place he could have in the company, very far from finance. He runs the reports, gives them to me, and then I go to share services, and then we talk. This is not what I do now. What I do now, I do my data management. I run my own report. I see my mistakes, and I call to be able to function and to correct them. This is my function right now, what I do. And that's what I do it on a daily basis. I think I've started doing this 5 years ago. Tax operating models, it's very important to know how you're operating internally, how master data is doing the information, where do they collect it, where do you have a problem in the operation? Is it when I enter a VAT number with the FR or ES, why the system doesn't take it? I need to speak to IT. You need to have always IT by your side. And trust me, IT could be by your side, but could be your worst enemy internally. You always need them by your side. Sustainability and efficiency. We need to be efficient and sustainable. Sustainable is, I want to make sure I'm taking the right measures. I'm always compliant. Always pay on time. These are the two key measures. Doing it efficiently regardless of the mistakes that probably I could have, because maybe then I will be able to correct my reports and make an adjustment. Real-time reporting is probably one of the things that we're facing most right now. I used to have time to manage my data. I used to have time to read, correct, and then get a report. Today, I can't do that with real-time reporting. Actually, the authorities know my mistakes before I even know them, before IT would be able to identify them to me. And that's one of the most important points that we're working on right now, at least since I arrived at Joseph Ribkoff, is to make them understand that more and more we're going to be having real-time reporting, maybe not at our level because we're a small, medium company, we're not like Meta, but it's going to come. And I need to start working the mindset of the IT team and of the finance department. Tax operations, what do we do? Do we do planning? Do I do only VAT recovery? Do I do only compliance? What is the tax operations that I do internally in the tax department? And efficiency in the processes, this is where we need tax engines and VAT compliance platforms, because now time is the key. Government, they know more than us what's going on. They have sometimes more efficient platforms and tax technology, and I'm talking about it from North American perspective. In Europe, I've been to a lot of events, and I've been working in Europe for the last 7 years of my life. And I see that in Europe, you are ahead of time than us, especially in Canada. I'm Canadian, my company is Canadian. We do see lacking of tax technology. We have IT people who are doing great job, not only at Joseph Ribkoff, but wherever I worked before. But yet, we're not there yet. The authorities are not there yet. So we're taking this just time and just kind of putting it back. But it's gonna hit us one day because we're in global. I can't wait eternally. Tax system management, automation and analytics, digitalization of communication, data reporting. All this is AI and robotics. This is what we're looking for in the new functions of a VAT person. This is what CFOs are looking for in the new VAT functions. I've been reading reports about the OECD. I've been reading reports of North American companies, how they're looking at it from a new perspective, and even European. They want someone to be able, I have a system, it runs it for me, it tells me my mistake, and you, Aline, just correct it. But Aline, who studied law, who did all this, who knows the VAT, she cannot do that anymore. So this is where we're heading in the new functionality. And that's why it's very important that I talk to you today about this. The wrap up about all what I'm telling you here is important, because when you talk to us and you come to us, you need to understand that this is where we're heading with you, yet we're still not there. We need you to help us to convince the management and to be able to have a vision where we're heading. Women in VAT function. Why did I'm talking about women in VAT? I'm not a feminist at all. That's not the aim. Tomorrow's International Women's Day. But I've seen the change we made on the ground. When I started, I think I started in 2005, my peers and my management was all made of men. And the women, very little, really few women, were my pioneers. And I was looking at them, they were my role models. Today in the morning, we had only 3 men speaking. We were all women. That's a huge shift and change in our society. And that's very important. Yet, you'd be surprised that despite it all, we still have issues. So tomorrow, we're celebrating Women's International Day, and that's the theme. Inspire inclusion, count her in, accelerating gender equality through economic empowerment. What we see today is that women, no matter what we do, maybe we're lucky in Europe, but in many countries, in the same function, we still don't have the same empowerment economically. And this year, really, the world wanted to shed light on it. However, how many of you women here struggle with work-life balance? Why? Why? If you have a partner in life, why do we always do that? Is it something that you think it's something in you, or is it the society? Do you think it's a problem that you have within yourself? You want to control everything? Lisa, you're the only one answering, so I have 3 answering. Interesting. So I think, from my perspective, I think that today the work-life balance issue is us. It's probably not society where we're heading. We still have a lot to give and to do, and we have still a lot for women to have place. But I think it's within ourselves. We need to change from within. Personality expectations. Did you know that all women in many high positions, they still believe they have to behave like men, they have to speak like men, and men do not take them seriously? That's a woman thing. I mean, we need to change from our own perspective. There is a program that I found with OECD that is, it's the 3rd edition this year. It's called Women Leaders in the Tax and Transparency Program, and it starts from March to November. And I really found it interesting because what they do is they gather women in tax practice, but tax leadership, and they all speak together and they put light on the practice in taxation first, and where we all stand as women. So I found it a very nice initiative from the OECD that we're seeing that the society is shifting. And that's it. Thank you for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Aileen. Thanks a million. So, Aileen, thank you very much for that. I can absolutely attest that here at TBI, I work with some fabulous women every day of the week. And trust me when I say they have a very powerful voice. I typically do everything they tell me. Isn't that right, Lisa?
You better.
So,
Aileen was worried that she might not be able to fill 20 minutes.
Yeah.
So, well done, Aileen.
Well done.
It was really, it was great.
We're
Yeah,
talking about
you.
closing VAT gaps, but you definitely closed our time gap for us there as well today. Took us up nicely to our lunch. That was a lovely segue as well. Some really great insights around your team, boosting it. I particularly liked it. We at TBI as well, we're very passionate about changing the way processes flow, looking at legacy systems and processes and saying, you don't have to do that anymore. There's technology out there that we can do it for you in real time. So we'll talk about that a little bit more after the break with our Comply platform.
And I just love the way Aileen said elevate about 3 times to elevate her tax team, I think was the thing. So thanks for that plug as well.
Training and education, I assume they're all members and they're all tuned in today.
Absolutely, yeah.
So that's taken us nicely up to lunch. We have an action-packed afternoon. It starts at 13:45. Is that correct? That's Irish time. And we'll see you all back here then. For Lisa, would you like to give us a flavour of what's next?
Yeah, so just really quickly, we're going to kick off with a Comply demonstration with yourself, Joe, and Georgie. We're going to head over to Stefan Kuhn from Mondelez to talk us through outsourcing of the VAT and automation of the VAT compliance function. We're going to have a panel discussion with Trish O'Brien and Melissa O'Brien, Shopify and MongoDB, talking about VAT on digital services. And then we're going to wrap up the day and go for a pint, hopefully, with Lachlan from Viatris, talking to us about transfer pricing. So
brilliant, fantastic. So join us at 13:45. Thank you very much, everybody.